Hello and welcome to our discussion today on the Open Forum. I would like to thank the Open Forum for inviting me to be a guest moderator. We are joined by three panelists who are quite well experienced and can do a better job of introducing themselves than I can. So I'm going to allow them to do that, starting with Mariam, followed by Masood and Crystal. Please go ahead, Mariam.
Hi, I'm Mariam Suleiman Khail. I'm a member of parliament representing the Kuchis or the nomads of Afghanistan. I was the deputy speaker for the Commission of Refugees, Martyrs, Disabled Kuchis in parliament. And previously, I was the deputy speaker for the head of secretariat for the Defense Commission. And currently, I'm an advocate for a free Afghanistan and a voice against extremism.
Hi everyone, good morning from Wellington in New Zealand. As you see, still is not a day. My name is Masood Hosseini. I'm a journalist and photographer, and I've been working for many outlets and news agencies like Agence France Presse, BBC, Associated Press, Foreign Policy magazine, and many others. And I try my best to raise voice right now for Afghanistan people, especially for the human rights activists and the journalists who are under a lot of pressure, and hope I can be hopeful in this conversation. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Crystal Bayat, a human rights and social activist from Afghanistan, and also the founder of Crystal Bayat Foundation, through which we can help and support the people who left behind.
Thank you everyone for joining. Today's topic is about the geopolitical situation, relevance of Afghanistan and the importance of reconstruction. And I'd like to start by having each of you talk about why you see Afghanistan as geopolitically relevant to the rest of the world, and what does reconstruction mean to you with regards to how the world should be participating in Afghanistan's future. Can we start with Masood?
Okay. Well, yeah, I thought that it will be started by Mariam John. For sure that Afghanistan is located in a really important part of Asia. And at the same time, we have one other matter that it's Afghanistan is related to many other big culture and nature in the region. And because of the history of Afghanistan, many other countries and many other powers try always to have a kind of let me say this way, that they like to have a control of this area, and they always try. So this is the main cause that Afghanistan always include and enter to many games, many political military games, and at the same time it never can be a real country because of all issues that we all might talk about it. And because of this, Afghanistan stayed so much backward comparing to other neighbors. And this situation that Afghanistan stayed really backward, non-educated society, and a real frame for a country, no possibility to start and go through being a nation. made a lot of causes, made a lot of wars, made a lot of kind of diseases, let's say, for the region. And for sure that to take away Afghanistan from all these problems, we need to think about development, especially in economy and education of this country, to find a way out from all this uh, situation and all this disaster that Afghanistan is going through, like terrorism, extremism, and other political issue that we have.
Thank you, Masood. I'm going to ask Mariam to elaborate on that and maybe even just talk about how Afghanistan is geopolitically relevant to countries outside of Afghanistan.
Thank you, Mina John, and thank you, Masood. First and foremost, geopolitically, why Afghanistan is important is because we're in the heart of Asia. We're connecting the East to the West. We're connecting the Middle East into Central Asia, the Middle East to Iran, to Russia, the Indian subcontinent to China. So we're in a very important point. And what is even more important is right now where politically Afghanistan stands. The fact that a far right-wing extremist group is able to take over a country, be gifted a country by the Western nations, and supposedly, in their words, have defeated these Western nations. This is motivating every single extremist right-wing political party in the entire Islamic world and probably the Christian world and probably the whole world to see a group that at their top max time period from Afghan Peace Watch, from UN documents as well. It stated that there was a maximum of 30,000 Taliban fighters. How were they able to take over an entire country? Well, they didn't do it by war. They did it by politically engaging with the West, politically lobbying, and now other extremist organizations are learning from that. When we're talking about infrastructure development, and that's only possible when the potential to fight no more remains in Afghanistan. Direct global engagement will only empower the Taliban and global terrorism by proxy, which not only puts the region in danger, but the whole world in danger.
Thank you very much, both of you, for that. We are going to go to a question that was received by the audience. It's a video question, if you wouldn't mind playing that.
Today, I would like to ask a question to the panelists. Is Afghanistan becoming the breed ground for terrorism? If yes, should the world not be worried for their own sake?
Can we get an answer from perhaps Masood for that?
Yes, okay. Well, for sure that when Afghanistan go to, a terrorist network and become a safe haven for terrorism, it will be a disaster. It will be a big problem for the world, for the region. And for sure that everybody have to be worried about it. But let me just tell you that, as I told you in the introduction, there are a lot of games going on in Afghanistan. And because Afghanistan never had any national, let's say, government, national in the meaning of the existence of a nation, and then that nation to represent itself, create or force or make a government or a system. Because we do not have this national government in Afghanistan, for sure that many other influences from the world and a region try to got some control, or at least as everybody knows about that, at least they pompage their own problems into Afghanistan and try to deal with it inside Afghanistan. So this is a normal, way in a political world, let's say, that the countries try to send their own, what they said, black terrorism into other areas to deal with them outside their own country to save their own citizens. So the main example and the good example, let's say, is Pakistan. That Pakistan tried to send all the violence inside the country, which caused by the terrorism, and put it inside Afghanistan, pump it inside Afghanistan. If you remember before, that the international community entered Afghanistan, Afghanistan was all in a really bad civil war, internal war, and many groups and many parties, political parties, were fighting each other. And at the same time, because it was not really important for the region, for the world, we could see that there were a lot of extremism going on in Pakistan too. There was a lot of or religion violence among Sunni and Shia, especially in Karachi, and there was a lot of other like a tribe or an ethnic problem in Pakistan, which was related to extremism and terrorism, like violence against the Darawish or Darwish religion or branch, and there was a lot of violence against the other sects like Hindus and Sikhs in India, in Pakistan. And after that, the international forces entered to Afghanistan for all those promises that they made before and after. So Pakistan easily could use Afghanistan as a ground battle for terrorism, for the extremism, and push them and try to convince them that there is a big jihad is going on inside Afghanistan, and you have to go and try to fight there. What they have this idea to make jihad philosophy alive for a day that they might need this extremism against the let's say India, because Pakistan always is scared of their own existence against India. So this is actually the main reason that every other countries, like even Iran and some of the Arab countries like Saudi, who pumped, let's say, Al Qaeda into Afghanistan even during the Russian invasion, and all these kind of problems make Afghanistan a safe haven for many other terrorist groups to have a base there, to train their own fighters, to train their own soldiers, and try to let's say plan terrorist attacks into other countries. We had this some of these kind of disturbing, let's say, and horrible news that we are all going through with it, that the MNU or Uzbekistan Islamic movement, which is a really extreme and terroristic group, had a celebration for their leader somewhere in Mazar Sharif like few weeks ago, and really easy. They were just went and kind of gathered and took one part of Mazar Sharif, and they had their own celebration, and they had their own gathering to charge or to motivate their own fighters about that. Okay, here Afghanistan, we are free and we will do everything that we want. And at the same time, we had some part of the extreme Tajikistan Islamic group who are also fighting and trying to have and control some part of Badakhshan. Even there are some news that one of their leaders is ruling, some part of Badakhshan to, kind of as a part of Taliban, right? Although that person is not the Afghanistan citizen at all. So at the same time, in the south and the east, we have a lot of other groups that they are working kind of against the other regional countries. I heard that some part of the Baluch extreme movement, Jundullah, who are fighting with Iranian kind of government, also it is right now inside Afghanistan, which during the Republic, these groups were fighting for Taliban, and now they officially, without any hesitation, they say that they are existed in Afghanistan. And for sure, this makes Afghanistan problem much, much more complicated than before. So, and this game will go to another new phase because right now, because we have a union of the three other big powers in the region, Russia, China, and Iran, just few months before the Kabul fall, like 1.5 years ago, that they had a completely an important agreement about being together and working together in Afghanistan, which all this make Afghanistan again really, really down, and it will be a reason for a lot of other terrorist groups to come into this area and say that this is the safe haven and this is the point that they can start and implement and approach their own jihad against all international countries. Thank you.
I'm going to go to Crystal now. Crystal was raised post these. She was not in Afghanistan, and she's not born in the first round of Taliban, and really has a very particular lens that she speaks from, and that's why I'd like to ask her about the impact of not paying attention to Afghanistan, and the idea that some have expressed that this past 20 years did not have a progress, and the situation is completely unaffected by those past 20 years. Crystal, I want to ask you then about the current situation and how it's impacting Afghans who are living in Afghanistan, and how you see it impacting the rest of the world if we continue to ignore it or to minimize it or to delay any action. What does that look like for Afghanistan and the Afghans who live there, and as well as the rest of the world in your view?
It's very obvious for everyone since the occupation of Afghanistan by the Taliban. The situation in Afghanistan has been deteriorating day by day, and we can see that under the Taliban, it's reasonable to say that all Afghan lives are in danger, but specifically women's life, which all their rights and freedoms has taken away. And women who were employed in the previous governments, they are unable to function or continue their job and works, or the girls are not allowed to go to school, which is, in my perspective, it's very dangerous for the future of Afghanistan. And we cannot ignore and keep silence about these issues. It's not the matter the people are thinking that this abusing of human rights or violation or depriving people from their rights is a normal issue. So the situation is worse in Afghanistan, and women cannot take part in public affairs, and the Taliban are trying to neglect women from the political affairs or economical affairs, overall from societal affairs. Unfortunately, Afghanistan has been abandoned by the world, and no one is paying attention. Which I must say that this is not the matter for only Afghans' life or Afghans' future. It's about the world security. The world become insecure if we let the Taliban to lead in Afghanistan. Since the Taliban came in Afghanistan, through Afghan Peace Watch, we have recorded that more than 34% of ISIS activities are rising in Afghanistan, which is very dangerous for the world security. And we had a experience from the past in a 9/11 attack, when for the first time the Taliban came in Afghanistan. No one paid attention, and that's what happened with the world, and it destroyed the world peace. So not soon, but in the future, it might be again. These things would happen if the world start ignoring Afghanistan, especially right now. If we came through the global jihad, which the Taliban are the big supporters, and somehow they are interrelated with the Taliban, with the ISIS in these issues, and they want to expand this extremist ideology that they have over the world. My concern is that the international community and world must pay attention about the current situation in Afghanistan, and prevent from the next disaster for the world security, and also about paying attention about the abusing of human rights in Afghanistan. The former government employees are unable to live their life peacefully in Afghanistan, and the Taliban abducted so many of them over 9 or 10 months that they took power in Afghanistan. And also the activists, they don't believe and respect in the right of activists, and they assassinated and detained so many activists. 3 months ago, out of 75, most of them has been raped and tortured by the Taliban, which is a big abuse of human rights, and we need the support and the attention of international community and the world in the security term in Afghanistan.
Thank you so much for that, Crystal. I'm going to go to Mariam and ask, about the narrative. I think that we hear a lot is dismissing the Afghanistan situation by saying that it is what the people of Afghanistan wanted, and that the Taliban are not foreign to what Afghanistan wants for themselves. What is your response to that?
Thank you, Mina Jan, for asking this really important and timely question. The Taliban were never the choice of the Afghan people, and I stand strongly behind that. There are hardly any villages in the entire country of Afghanistan where there won't exist the graves of our proud Afghan soldiers who laid their lives to protect the honor of our beloved tricolored flag. Remove a single madrasa, Darul Uloom Haqqaniya of Pakistan, from our history, and suddenly 1,050 suicide attacks in Afghanistan cease to exist. Replace Pakistan with any of our 5 other neighbors, and suddenly the Taliban insurgency has no cross-border military, economic, medical, logistical, or moral support. This clearly shows that Taliban is a Pakistani phenomenon, designed, empowered, and maintained to act as an extended arm of the Pakistani military, and is there to ensure that Pakistan's strategic depth in Afghanistan.
Thank you for that.
Also, Mina John, I wanted to just say something really quick because we are getting messages constantly. Master John already knows where I'm going to go with this. My father is from Paktika. My people that I represent are from Khost, Paktika, the entire eastern region, more so in 34 provinces. I have Kuchis all over the country. And from the way you speak and because I know you for so long, we've always been like-minded about the enemies of Afghanistan. But recently, your tweets have been very divisive. They've been very. It's been feeding into the people who want to divide Afghanistan. It's been feeding into the people who are pushing this racism, where you had mentioned in one of your tweets that the people of Paktika and Khost got the earthquake because of some sort of punishment because of Balkhab and Panjshir. When you and I know that a lot of our Pashtun brothers and sisters have stood up and raised their voices against the atrocities of what the Taliban have been doing towards the minorities. Crystal John knows them all. I know them all. Mina John knows them all. Master John, you know them all that are on the ground right now going missing. We can't sit here and say that the Taliban represent any ethnic group. The Taliban represent one type of ideology, and that is a foreign ideology, an extremist ideology. That's a disease that's in Afghanistan right now. So I really hope that you can explain why these racist tweets came from your account.
Yes. Can I, Minajan?
Yes, please. I think it's important. It's important not only on your behalf to be able to speak yourself, but for this forum in general to hear it.
Thank you, Mariam John, to raise this issue, and I hope that those who had a lot of hatred tweet against myself, they also make this kind of conversation that we talk, and I have time to explain it. So I have to go really quick because our topic in this conversation is a different thing. I start a bunch of, let's say, tweets to undermine and question the philosophy of jihad of Taliban, right? And for sure that jihad in our society has his own philosophy, its own explanation that Taliban using a lot of part of it, saying that and promising to all fighters a lot. I mean, during that while that I was in Afghanistan, I had questioning and I had an interview with their fighters inside the jails. Was that when the jihad wins against kafirs and kuffars, a lot of good things coming to the society, right? A lot of even if I can translate it in English, a lot of good things even come from the sky. Even in one of their story, Haqqani said that he was praying and then Mujahideen didn't have food and then he prayed and then cooked and ready to cook, ready ship was there for the Mujahideen, right? So I was trying to undermine and question this philosophy of Taliban about jihad. And unfortunately, I know actually who the account called Emarati, who's a commander of Taliban in Panjshir, from Panjshir. He picked one of the tweets, which was only, it was along with 4 other tweets that day, right? And then picked that tweet and brought that tweet on the, social media everywhere and put it and shared it everywhere. to just say that, listen what Masood says. That tweet was not standing by itself. It was.
Mr. John, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But every one of your tweets recently has been saying Pashtun Taliban. Pashtun
Oh, yes.
Taliban. Pashtun Taliban. Why
exactly.
that?
I'm going to talk about that too. Well, if you go to all of them, not only the one that it make you question, it raised about the other ethnicity, Taliban as well. We had some attacks in Badakhshan to other people by, let's say, Tajikistani Taliban, which they are Tajik. We had this commander Maulavi Mahdi, who was Hazara Talib, right? So in some part, to explain more and to explain more details, I have to mention that.
I'm sorry, I'm only cutting in. I think it's my job to keep the conversation going. And I know that this particular line of discussion could go on for quite a while as well. I think what we can do, Masood, especially if you would like to sort of get this resolved, because you have been getting a lot of backlash, and I think the backlash is understandable just because the way you're phrasing it is absolutely implying that what the Taliban does is representative of Pashtun culture, and the way you've worded things has implied that certain situations such as the earthquake are borderline deserved because of the Pashtun prevalence of that province. And if you want to clear that and just stand behind what we think that you must feel, which is what all Afghans understand, is that the Taliban are not in any way representative of the majority of our country, then we could clear it there, as opposed to looking for different ways to put it in context. That is how your tweet and your messages have been taken. So if you'd like to just speak against that, let's do that, and then let's carry on.
Sure. Well, this is completely obvious that one group.
It's not from your conversation. It's not obvious. So it's better just to say, let's just say clearly that is not your belief. If it's not, and we can carry on with the conversation. I have a question.
Oh, for sure it's not my belief. The one that they picked the tweet is not my belief at all. Perfect. Even there, I did not say this is coming from me. I said people believe this, right? So I never said anywhere that Taliban is representing the Pashtuns. And when I had the first message, 10 minutes after that tweet, I got one message from a friend of mine who is a Pashtun from the US and told me that this is not good, Masood. I delete that tweet because I know that I have to be really careful about this.
Okay, so it wasn't misinterpreted to your understanding. Exactly. It's worded in a way that I don't think that it's the fault of those who read it as much as you phrased it in a way that was offensive. So let's carry on and with the understanding that you don't associate the Pashtun culture and people with the Taliban. A question from a user that I will actually allow you to answer, Masood, because the question from the user is: we have seen how the democracy of the West did not work. Taliban is not the answer either. So what then? Perhaps you could answer that, Masood. And thank you for your response before. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Yes. First of all, I should say that one of the reasons that I picked my second major in AUAF in American University of Afghanistan as a political science students was to understand the all complication that we had in Afghanistan. And I always motivated to find a way for at least for myself to understand that what's going on. Well, democracy and the time and the presence of the Western community was the only chance that we had, right? So we cannot and we will not have this situation again. 3 weeks ago, I had a conversation and political talks with an Australian activist in who are doing a lot of job for UNHCR. And I commented about this issue, that why you are only gathering money and aid and everything for the Ukrainian refugees, which while we have the biggest in the world. So this brought this program that we had a conversation about this, that this is one example, many Australian activists and politicians in Australia and in New Zealand think that we had our chance. A lot of money came, a lot of energy of the democratic governments entered to Afghanistan, pumped into Afghanistan, but people did not want to have democracy. I'm saying here right now again, and explain that again, that Taliban are not people. Even the other groups of Mujahideen from 90s, they are not people too. People are those who went to the bold boxes. They went and vote for the republic. Although that we had a lot of problem, I understand that we had fraud and all those problems that we had, but still nobody can say that what people of Afghanistan want. People of Afghanistan definitely want the republic. That's why that 8 million people somehow they went for a vote. Like millions, I'm not gonna make any false statement. Millions of people went through the election process to the let's say to vote for a parliament, to vote for the council, to vote for the president, and they worked on this issue a lot. If people of Afghanistan did not want democracy, did not want peace, definitely they never take the risk to go to the ballots, and in some part of Afghanistan they lose their fingers, right? So this is what the media, Western media right now is pushing their own audience to understand, to get rid of this disaster. They are many of the Western communities and countries, they are upset about this. They're feeling guilty about this in Afghanistan. And to repair this, their own reporters, even inside Afghanistan, trying to convince their own public that this is what Afghanistan public want. This is what Afghan people try to send the message to the world, that we want like what Farooq Abadak said, a Socha Islamic government, right? This is not true. At least we have to consider the difference between the political culture. At least we have to understand the difference between political political structure, and the difference in the ruling for the other ethnic group as well. So this means democracy. This cannot bring any other system in Afghanistan. Minajan, you're mute, Minajan.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Mariam now and ask if she has anything to add to what you just answered. And also, I will pose the next question from one of the listeners, which is, what could the Eastern nations do to help Afghanistan remove the Taliban? Could pressure be put on Pakistan? I'll let Mariam go, and then Crystal, John, if you'd like to add something after her as well, please do go ahead.
Thank you again, Mina John. I do think it's really obvious that the Afghan people, you could have seen them throughout the last 20 years. Whenever anytime there was a reason to vote, people lost their fingers trying to vote for democracy. And I think when someone says that democracy doesn't work in the West, I think that's a very subjective comment someone can make. And the reason political geo. Can you hear me? Sorry, the internet's not the best. So there's a lot of factors that come into why a democracy or the republic didn't work out at the end, but it wasn't because of the people's will. And that I want to say is that there was corruption. Anyone who says there's no corruption in Afghanistan, I don't think there's anyone who says there was no corruption in Afghanistan. There was definitely corruption in Afghanistan. What is the alternative to a few corrupt individuals? Let's say 1,000 corrupt individuals. I'm overly exaggerating. The alternative to that, the Taliban? Is it an extremist group? Why are they allowed to rebrand themselves? Why are the people who invented child suicide bombing, why are the people who killed hundreds of thousands of Afghans, why are they allowed to rebrand themselves and not the KKK, Nazis? Why are the Taliban? It completely I think it's one of the biggest mistakes the Western world has ever decided to do is allow this. To what can the Eastern countries do? This is directly impacting the Eastern countries in the first step. To think that we can put pressure on Pakistan is naive. Their entire country is dependent on a weakened, dependent Afghanistan. They built their nuclear arsenal in the 90s when Taliban were in power at that point. They were able to supply North Korea with nuclear weapons that no one wants to talk about. Pakistan supplied North Korea with nuclear weapons. This is a fact. So off of what? Off of the war in Afghanistan. When Afghanistan is in disarray, from every single refugee, there's money being made. Let's not even talk about the money that's coming in from donors. Just from a basic Western Union that comes into a refugee, Pakistan makes money. From the illegal lumber trade, from the illegal coal trade, from the illegal mining, it's constant. And even more is our culture. The fact that Pakistan is constantly trying to take our culture away from us too, and replace it with what? An Islamic extremist identity. This didn't exist in the past. The burqa was not our culture. This is something new. And the Taliban like to pretend that this is our culture when it's not. You're not going to hear the truth from the Afghan people right now. They're being held hostage. They know the world has abandoned them. How can you expect people who have been held hostage to sit there and tell you what the reality on the ground is? If you want to stand with the Afghan people, bring monitoring to Afghanistan. If you want to stand with the Afghan people, hold the Taliban accountable for what they're doing to women, what they're doing to minorities, what they're doing to ex-soldiers. Go do a monitoring and evaluation on how the prisons are filled right now. You can't find that out from outside of the country, and no one inside the country is brave enough to tell you, because right now there are videos that I don't have the guts to share. If someone wants it, they can message me and I'll send it to them. Recently in Kandahar, there's videos of men with their hands and their feet tied up, and I'll never get these images out of my head of watching a Talib cut his neck open. I can't put this on social media. And whenever everyone in our parliament group, this was sent in our parliament group, when they said, okay, how can you send such a disgusting video where human beings, that's our Afghan brother, how can you watch him die? The person who sent it responded with saying, if I don't send it and you don't see it, how do you know what's happening? Can we just tell stories? It doesn't make an impact. This is 2022. We're blessed with the fact that we have smartphones, we have videos, and that image will never leave my mind. So when me, Crystal, Masood, Mina, when we're speaking in this regard, we're begging the world to keep your eyes on Afghanistan, to send monitoring, to raise the voices of the people over there. Because right now it's there, but eventually it's going to be in the Eastern countries first. And after the Eastern countries, we'll see it come to the West as well. Why are the Taliban building their suicide bombing unit in the Ministry of Defense? They've already built it. They're not building it. What are they planning to do with the orphans in Afghanistan? What are they doing with the drug addicts? Are they sending them into the suicide bombing brigade? Who are they going to fight next? What is this huge army for? Didn't they win the war? Didn't they get their country? This is not the last point. When we're speaking, we're not just speaking on behalf of Afghanistan, we're speaking on behalf of the whole world. Last year, we had the ANA, the Afghan National Army. They were on the front line fighting terrorism for the entire world. Now we don't have anyone. So I hope and I pray that this talk and every other talk that we're in enlightens someone to stand with Afghanistan and keep amplifying our voices. Thank you again. Sorry for getting emotional.
Thank you for getting emotional. I will ask if Crystal John has anything to add to that. And if not, we'll move on to another question. Would you like to say anything, Crystal?
Yes. People are thinking it's very sometimes painful for me to say like democracy didn't work in Afghanistan or didn't work in Afghanistan. We were just embedding democracy. For Western countries, it took almost 200 years to get the rights that we built over 20 years. It's not easy. We had our numerous achievements in different industries, political, economical. We had even a female robotic team. Wasn't it a kind of the result of democracy in Afghanistan? And what we are seeing under the Taliban, nothing, just closing the door, the school doors, and forcing the women, all female, to sit at home. So that was a change for democracy, and it worked in Afghanistan. Actually. Politically, it failed, but in terms of societal changes, it brought a lot of changes in Afghanistan. Democracy worked the best level in Afghanistan for 20 years. We got the women under democratic time in Afghanistan. The women got their rights to vote. The woman could be a politician, a minister, or as a vice president. The women could they could be fashion model, what kind which is almost like more than for the other countries to have this kind of changes in get this right. It's not easy for them to get this right easily, but we build these achievements and these gains within 20 years. And for this much changes, it was a very short time for Afghans. But still, we proved ourselves. But I must say, it's we people of Afghanistan didn't fail. The international community who invested in Afghanistan, they failed. They left us. They left us, and they are abandoning us right now too. And they keep neglecting. But they replaced democracy with the military. Right now, Afghanistan is getting a shape of dictatorship, similar to the region countries like Iran. Like they are Republican, but that's not a kind of republic. The citizen cannot speak out on even they cannot openly use their social media. What kind of freedom is this? If a person is sharing their personal thoughts through the social media, the person will be killed by the Taliban on the next day. Is it what the Taliban are claiming? Is it what Islam? Because most of the time, when I discuss the people, they come Islam and let the vision be in a private affair rather than the public. They are interfering everything on base of Islam, which Islam has nothing to do with these things. Sharing your personal thought has nothing to do with Islam. And I see the question that how the international community, the best way to it's very easy for them to get Afghanistan out of this situation, but they don't want. They just start neglecting Afghanistan, and they don't pay attention. The strategy, and I mean, for they invested in Afghanistan, they know everything better than us. But for the citizens of the world, for the world nation, I have a message to raise your voice in any platform that's available for them, whether through social media. Raise your voice. it's political leaders who are handing 40 million life of Afghans into the terrorist group. Just as a human, feel like how it looks like to live under the Taliban regime, or put your females, like people are asking like how it look like, and it's okay. We should normalize, or we should end the war. War is not only to kill with the weapon or with the bullet, but Afghans are dying each second under this. All their inner peace, all their freedoms, rights are taken away. 40 million out of 40 million through Afghan Peace Watch, there is a report that 79% of Afghans are not happy with this type of government. And the Western countries are trying to normalize the Taliban and somehow impose to the people with this government. What if the citizens do not have the right to go to school? And what we see in the future of Afghanistan? Lastly, I don't want to speak a lot because of the time limitation. I just want to request, because we in this group, we are from different ethnic, and I always ask my Afghans that let's keep our fraternity and our harmony, our peace together. Let's be united. Don't allow the outsider to disunite us, to separate us. We can win this war, because we know that this war is not within Afghanistan. It's an outside project in Afghanistan. Let's not let them to get happy that we are lost. Right now, the people are trying to disunite the people inside of Afghanistan in terms of Tajik or Hazara or Pashtun. I am minorities of minority. I'm a Shia, I'm Bayat. No one knows what Bayat means. But still, I'm standing with my Tajik brothers, I'm standing with my Pashtun and Pashtun sisters and brothers. Because I never see Maryam as a Pashtun. I never see Masood as a Tajik. I see them as an Afghan. And we all are Afghan. We will never let outsider to get success in this term, unite us or separate us. We are one and we are united, and we will not, if not today, one day we will win this war. And I know this one, if someone is talking Pashto, it doesn't mean that Talib is Pashtun, that Pashtun is Talib. Some illiterate people from Hazara community, from Tajik community, they are joining Taliban, and it doesn't mean that all these people represent the whole ethnic. We are all together. We have, even if whole Africa or Panjshir itself has a Talib, people are. We have to do, and we cannot say that these people are also Talib. Now everyone is getting Talib, because we have we have less educated people in Africa. The literacy rate is high. So that's why the Taliban, it can easily brainwash them and change them. We should not let the Taliban, to get success in this term. Together, we are more united, we are more powerful, rather than be getting separated. Thank you so much. And I'm so sorry that today I was sick and I couldn't take part with other questions. And I'm so happy to hear from you guys, your perspective. You guys are the hope of Afghanistan, and we shouldn't let our enemy to succeed,
Thank you so much for that, Crystal. Before I jump to the next question, I am a moderator, but I sometimes can't help inserting my own my own feelings in this. And I will say that I think it's worth mentioning that we cannot deny that there are ethnic issues and systematic issues in Afghanistan that absolutely must be addressed, or else we will continue to repeat a cycle that has not served all of Afghanistan equally. And it's not to say that that issue should disappear when we ask for unity. I think when we ask for unity, what we're saying is to think of the priorities first. And our first priority is freedom, and that means freedom for everyone. And then my own personal belief is that absolutely these systems have to be reconstructed and redeveloped in order to be inclusive to the entire country. But that is not a dismissal of those problems. The idea is that we need to dismiss making that a priority before the freedom. There's no sense in talking about who should be where and how the system should look until we have the freedom to even have our own system as a people. So apologies, I had to insert that, and I will move on to another question from one of the viewers. Jasmine Brown asked, are we going to look at another situation where China can slowly take control in the name of helping? And before I direct that question, I will say a lot of people have dismissed the past 20 years as actually being the West's idea of controlling Afghanistan under the name of support and under the name of helping. Now, I think it's clear for anyone to see that we are currently our current imposed leadership is dealing very closely with many other countries. Of course, yes, it's not the US and it's not NATO, but is it not China? Is it not Russia? Is it not other countries that are working closely with them, like Pakistan? So I will let Masood answer that question about whether or not this could be a situation where other countries are going to seek control of Afghanistan in the name of helping.
Thank you. I should say that from long time ago, when I was covering all the other projects in Afghanistan and going to many other provinces, I find out that this was already going on. Wherever and whenever one of the NATO and international and the Western community or country left a project for some reason, definitely was being taken by China. This was completely clear. Although that I'm saying mostly journalists and activists talked about this for many years through the international media, local media, and everything, that this is going to be happen, right? So then what is the reaction? What is your interest? And what you want to do? We were just asking this to Western countries. But unfortunately, because of many pressures and because of many other politics involved in this region, as I told you, whatever we got from the great game that still is going on, China was trying and was playing a really, really smart and secret games, right? If you remember, in before that, the road being closed down in the foreign ministry road in Kabul, there was a rocket attack on China embassy, and after that there was a killing of Chinese and kidnapping them and all this. And then easily China went from let's say, impartial country till that time to an active one and got the side of Taliban. Why? Because our government, unfortunately, the republic that we were establishing it was going to completely down. It was completely corrupt. So China started communicating with the Taliban through their own system from that time, and try to fund Taliban somehow in some areas. Again, I'm telling you, because the coverage of war is really, really difficult and important and so sensitive. If you go to Badakhshan, there was only one road which was under control of Taliban, and that was going into Tajikistan. The rest of the area was safe because it was not important for the Taliban. You could not see any insecurity in Wakhan, for example. You even couldn't find one Talib in Wakhan that time. Why? Because it wasn't important for them. But that road to Tajikistan was under the Taliban's control. And that was the place that China could use some of their own people inside Tajikistan to send the aids and money to Taliban, right? We were talking about this, nor our government and not the international communities and NATO didn't even do anything about it, right? So when Afghanistan was abandoned in 2000, let's say 14, after the big fraud election in presidential election, then everything was going down. We were telling this, and from that 2014, the activity of China and the interfere and getting into Afghanistan was much clear. Everybody could see China in every part of the politics. Before the Kabul go down, the embassy of China becomes so active after 2014. I'm sure that Mariam John know about it too. And they were inviting a lot of people. They were inviting a lot of MPs. They're inviting a lot of ministers and just try to get in really much because the US already wanted to get out, right? And they knew it, that they have to do it. They opened a Chinese language faculty in Kabul University, funded really well with a lot of equipment. And even one of the really let's say wonderful, I can say, ceremonies was happened few months before the collapse of Kabul, that China, for the first time, right, they opened a really big photo exhibition about Afghanistan, and then invited a lot of artists, right? This was the first time that they were doing it. Well, I normally never wanted to go to the Chinese and Russia. I mean, invitations, whatever the ceremony they had. But at that time, one of my friends who had the exhibition there really pushed me to go, and I went there, right? And I could just see that how China, especially the ambassador, was playing. He start with this conversation that whoever learn Chinese and learn about China politics, right? And they had a book, really big book from the Xi, whatever the name of their president is, and said that if anybody know this, if anybody learn about this, we definitely give a scholarship with no question, right? And even on that ceremony, they registered artists, they registered the activists for a scholarship for traveling to China, right? This means that they really think, and they really count Afghanistan of one of the places that they can get their own strategy more vast and get into the region.
Thank you so much, Masood. Yeah, it looks like we do see not only is it a repeat of something happening in the name of support, but in certain cases like that of China, it looks like it's just a continuation of something that they've been doing for quite a while and have just joined the newer names in leadership. We are short on time, so I appreciate that there are other questions. A lot of them seem to be in line with answers that we've already received. So I'm going to actually start to ask us to wrap up and give any final thoughts on the importance and the necessity of support and engagement with Afghanistan. I will go from Mariam to Crystal, and then Masood, if you have any final thoughts as well. And before we do that, and before we say goodbye, we will just acknowledge and pay homage to the many lives lost in the recent natural disaster, earthquake in Afghanistan. And I think it's hard for me to acknowledge those victims without also saying that there are so many victims whose names are not being shared, and who are quietly and systematically being killed throughout Afghanistan, and as well as just the obvious victims of the famine who are consistently waiting for support. And we'd really like to ask anyone who's listening and who feels for that and wants to get involved, please choose an organization that you feel comfortable with, that you trust, and do that work that leadership isn't doing. Not only the leadership that's currently sitting in Afghanistan, but leadership around the world is failing the citizens of Afghanistan. And unfortunately, it's become the responsibility of everyday citizens to step up and take on that role. So I really do encourage that anyone who's listening and is feeling compassion towards all these lives that are continuously being lost, in addition to earthquakes, in addition to the killings that are happening, just getting food on the table for people is a possibility from outside of Afghanistan. So please take part and support in any way you can. There are many organizations. I'd be happy to share some with you. And thank you everyone for joining us. So I will sign it off from me and take it to Mariam if she has any final thoughts, to Crystal, and then to Masood. You're muted.
Sorry. Thank you again for giving us this forum to speak on, and thank you, Mina John, for moderating for us for a second time. We enjoyed it. These are my favorite to do. Thank you, Crystal, for being on with us. Masood John, thank you for clearing up the air about your tweet. And I hope and I pray that we all unite and we are one united voice, because that's what our enemies fear the most. When we're being divisive and when we're trying to separate Afghans, that's exactly the same agenda that the Taliban have. So let's not play into that. Let's all be united. And one thing I wanted to say about China, and I'll wrap it up and that'll be it. I agree with everything that Mr. John said. China plays a very simple game. They learn their people. They're playing the long game. They're playing for 30 years. They're playing for 50 years, especially in the mining sector in Afghanistan. And there's several African nations, there's even some, I think, Caribbean nations, where China finds their corrupt individuals in the government. They pay them very handsomely, and they're able to loot that country on scales that we've never seen before. I don't think the international community cares, but I think the Afghan people should know about this. I think this is something that we need to rely back to our Afghan people, because as Bilal Sadwari had tweeted recently, the Taliban right now are fighting between the opium fields in Kandahar and Helmand. They're fighting over the gold mines in Badakhshan, and they're fighting against the recent coal mines in Saripol. So there's already corruption being seen within these people. They've gotten a very new taste of power and money. And to think that these people are not corrupt, it's being unbelievably naive. So it's actually really scared what hungry, corrupt people will do. Again, please listen to the voices that still have people in Afghanistan, because the people in Afghanistan can't speak. Please open your eyes. Don't ignore it. As an Afghan, if someone sends you a video of an atrocity that's happened in Afghanistan, it's really important to look at it. You have to open your eyes. You have to see what's happening. It's scary and it's still going on. It hasn't stopped. So stand with your Afghan brothers and sisters, raise your voices, support the people who are on the ground, feeding the people, such as CLAP, Uplift. I think there's other organizations, Afghan Red Crescent. Mina John is connected with all of them, and she's a person I trust 100% with this. Crystal Bayat Foundation has been on the ground helping people as well. Please donate to her if you can as well. And for monitoring the violence on the ground, the only people that I know who are doing this is what's it called? Afghan Peace Watch. Afghan Peace Watch is someone that you guys should also support in any way possible. Again, thank you for having me, and I know one day we'll be free. I have faith in the Afghan people, the youth that were built in the last 20 years. Zindabad Azad Afghanistan.
Thank you, Mariam John. Crystal, if you have any words, please do share. Final words.
Thank you so much, Mina John. It was really an honor for me to be among these amazing people. And I don't want to take a lot of time, but in a short term, I want to ask the people who are hearing us and listening us today, for the sake of your future, for the sake of world security, support Afghan. It's not the matter for only Afghans that you guys are forgetting about Afghanistan. It's about your future. It's and also I'm really sorry to hear about my Afghans that are suffering recently from natural disasters and also the war crime in Panjshir and Balkhab. So for any humanitarian organization who want to support the people in Afghanistan, don't hesitate to support. It's really the main time to support those people. They are really in need, and they need our support. Thank you so much. Zindabad Afghanistan, and I think that it's standing united is the need of the hour. So we must be united, and together we are more powerful to beat our enemy.
Thank you, Crystal. Thank you, Masood. If you have any final words, and then we will say goodbye.
Yes, definitely. I also should respect to all those who lost their lives in earthquake and the floods and the snow, which is coming from this environment change and everything. And before that, I say my final word. Also, I would just say that those friends in Twitter, I didn't block any of them. And if they want to know more about what I was meaning about those tweets, they can invite me and I can talk to their own communities and their own friends too and explain it. And for the last, point, I'm not really that positive that Mariam John and Crystal John is about Afghanistan and the situation and what they said something that we tried to 20 years to do it. We're not united, right? We are not together. We are not nation. We all know this, right? And this is what I'm directly tell to these, let's say, 100,000 people who were being evacuated by the name of being the side of the republic and they were under the Taliban threat or whatever, right? This is the time, the historical time for them to respect the responsibility. And once more, let's try once more. Although that I'm telling you, and I'm sure that the world would never support again us like what they did in 20 years. They never want to go back again. They left us totally, completely. The only budget that they put for Afghanistan is that 1% of the aid budget that they had for 40 years for Afghanistan. The rest is nothing. There won't be any investment. There won't be any positive promises at all, right? So this is the historical time for you to try. If you try to bring whatever we talk about, that unity, nation, whatever, this is the time that you have to be active. Do not go through all this I don't know, the great pictures that you post in the social media with a lot of great foods, a lot of great places inside the bar, inside. That's not gonna work. Those who were evacuated are responsible of this fail too, like everybody else. So please think about it. And the avoiding and stopping the killing of civilians is the first thing that we should. I'm not saying that which kind of system or what should we think about. No, it doesn't matter. We have to stop this killing. We have to stop this
The
nonsense.
killing isn't going to stop if you keep saying that we're divided. When I went to Daikundi, when I went to Bamyan, when I sat with my Azara brothers and sisters, they welcomed me in like I was their own sister. When I go to Panjshir, they treat me like their own sister. Whenever my Azara brothers and my Tajik brothers and my Uzbek brothers and my Sikh brothers and sisters come to me, there is no difference between them and a Kuchi, none whatsoever. And I will never ever take the idea and spread it around that we're divided. I think that's a cancerous idea, and I completely think that you're doing the job of the Taliban, Masood Jan, whenever you say that we're not going to talk about that we're divided. It's not the reality. It's a foreign plan to divide us. Bad things have happened in our history. Bad things have happened in every history, and we need to be accountable to that. But that does not mean that today I don't call them my brothers and sisters and I don't love them as my own. So I will not play into that. I will not discuss that again. Even on social media, I never discuss this because it's irrelevant to me. The people of Afghanistan, they're united. Again, Zindabad, free Afghanistan, a united free Afghanistan. And this is all a Pakistani and Iranian project to divide us.
Mariam Jan, Masood Jan, I think we all are one, and we shouldn't think it's we people who are being evacuated and we are coming here without any engagement or business. So we are trying to bring this division among the ethnic in Afghanistan. So we should know that over past 20 years, it wasn't only the fault of one ethnic, rather than our leaders, whether it was Pashtun or Tajik. So we should never compare the leaders to the common people, like whether it's Turk or Tajik or Pashtun. But I must say, it's your personal ideas. We can't impose this ideology or your personal thoughts to the whole nation, that we say that, or we tell that we are not unite. We are unite, and we will never allow the enemies to get the feeling of victory on our division, because Afghanistan is, I think, as you mentioned, like that beauty, the mountains picture or the fruits picture, that's not what is on social media. I think that's our the beauty of our country. And I really proud of the beauty that Afghanistan have, and most Afghanistan is beautiful, and people are hearing about because of the diversity among ethnicities. So let's not discuss about these issues while it doesn't have any outcome in future. I know Mina knows, or you know, that the more we spirit hatred between the ethnics, the more it brings failure to us, rather than the goals that we have to target for that. Our target is to free
So this is why women should rule Afghanistan. We need a woman president.
I just because of time, I am gonna wrap this up, and yeah, I was not gonna allow it to end on that negative note anyway. It's about balance, everyone, and by no means I don't think that neither Crystal, Mariam, myself, or anyone else who posts or says things that uses incredibly positive words like unity and like freedom and like a positive future, and shares things that we love about Afghanistan, that is no less realistic than the negatives that you're sharing. That is also a reality. The reality is that people do have a lot of love for where they're from. The reality is that they do care about the future and that they do want it to be free. So although that I will recognize that, no, it's not all super easy and it's going to happen just because we all love each other. I know what you're trying to say, Masood, is that there's a lot of reality that needs to be faced, a lot of accountability that needs to be held. That doesn't make the positive less true. That doesn't make the possibility of a good future for Afghanistan less true.
I was ending it with the hope, and I was just.
It took you too long to get to the hope, so we're just.
That's the problem. That's the problem sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, I just say that this is the different time, and a lot of people who were really active and had a lot of motivation, now they are evacuated.
Like
and,
you.
Yes, and then they are using, and they have a lot of power from the country, the powerful country that they are living. So what I was telling is that do not leave Afghanistan like this. Do not go through as I told you, going to post what you eat there, or you go to the bar, or you go to what. now is the time that you have to work for Afghanistan, and you have to bring ideas. If you want to Afghanistan be alive again, to let's get together again and let's work again together. By one, and only one person cannot bring any change. We are alive. We wanted to be alive because we wanted to bring the changes.
Correct.
Nina, before we leave, I don't want to leave on a bad note with Masood. I just want to say that Masood's my brother. I know him very well, and I know in his heart how clean he is and how hurt he is about Afghanistan. And I believe that today's talk about his clarity was really important. And I hope I didn't say anything to offend you as well, or anyone in Afghanistan or this group. I love you all.
Thank you. Thank you, you guys. Look, the people in Afghanistan are not able to speak for themselves right now. So let's say that ourselves as Afghans who are not in Afghanistan anymore, but have seen it and have deep love for it and have lived there. It's us. It's the Afghans who haven't lived in Afghanistan but care for it. It's the non-Afghans who have some compassion and care for our country. And it's also leadership who should care about how this will affect them in the long run. There are a lot of people who need to step up and take responsibility, and I completely agree with that. That's all of us. We can do it with a positive hope and intention for the future, but with a lot of realistic understanding of how much work it's going to take. And I'm going to take control by saying we do have to say goodbye now because we've gone on quite long. But thank you, each one of you. Thank you, Open Forum, for having us. This has been a casual conversation at times. It's been intense at times, and it's I think we've all learned a lot about how much work we have in front of us, but how determined we all are to make Afghanistan safer for Afghans as well as for the rest of the world. Thank you all for being here.